Yes, the victory horns are back, and they're sounding for some hometown heroes. Ciryl Gane, manning Fiorot, Benoit Saint-Denis, closing the show with big victories to cap off the UFC's return to Paris. And it is official, ladies and gentlemen. The best crowd of 2023 is what we just saw today. The Accor Arena in Paris, absolutely on fire from moment one all the way through Ciryl Gane's one-way destruction of Serghei Spivak in the main event. Crowd was absolutely on fire. We're here to talk all about it. Welcome to the UFC Paris post-fight show. We're live on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel. I am Mike Heck, being joined by two of my favorites. First, Mr. José Youngs, getting ready to travel internationally to Sydney, Australia for UFC 293. How we doing, Jose? Are we all packed? Are we ready to go?
12 hours from now, I will be 30,000 feet in the air on a Sunday, and I will land in Sydney, Australia on a Tuesday. Not fun, but looking forward to some fist fighting action down under.
Yes. And also joining us, Mr. Hot Take, Mr. No Gray Area. I'm sure he's got thoughts, opinions, takes as he always does. Mr. Jed Meshew. Hello, Jed. How are you?
I mean, on the one hand, I would love to go to Australia. That sounds really fun. On the other hand, I don't want to go to Australia for this card. So I'm of mixed emotions for you. I don't know how to feel for you. But this card we just watched was fine. But that crowd was electric, Mike. Best crowd of the year by far.
Absolutely. And it made the event better than it actually was. So, Jose, let's begin with you. Ciryl Gane bounces back, gets Serghei Spivak. And a lot of people looked at this. This is a classic striker versus grappler matchup. This is the definition of it. Serghei Spivak shot for a takedown in the first round after getting kind of battered up a little bit by Ciryl Gane, who was just moving around, just out athleticing Serghei Spivak. And then Serghei went for a takedown, and Ciryl Gane just sprawled and laid on top of him and stood right up. And the look on Serghei Spivak's face, I typed literally into our private Slack channel, Serghei Spivak is screwed after that whole situation. It turns out about 5 minutes later, fight was over. Ciryl Gane bounces back, big win, bounces back from the loss to Jon Jones. What did you make of Ciryl Gane's performance in front of his home crowd?
I mean, he essentially pitched a perfect game. Like you said, he showed off enough aspects of his game that showed improvements. Like I said in the preview show that this fight could go any sort of direction just because obviously I think Ciryl Gane's the better fighter than Serghei Spivak, but Spivak's strengths are Ciryl Gane's weaknesses, and that's obviously the grappling and wrestling department. Obviously, when Ciryl Gane fought Francis Ngannou, I can't imagine he thought Francis would rely on such a wrestling-heavy attack, so don't know how much wrestling he did in camp. And then good luck anyone in the world beating Jon Jones, because he's just the greatest fighter of all time. So I would imagine Ciryl Gane spent a lot of time wrestling, like he said he was going to do after he lost to Jon Jones, because he never really did much of that in camp when, he was fighting Jairzinho and Volkov and Derek Lewis and Junior Dos Santos, like these guys that probably aren't shooting for double legs or single legs too often. So, clearly, when Serghei shot for that first takedown, grabbed a leg, and Ciryl Gane basically jumped out of it and landed on Serghei Spivak. I was like, well, this fight is pretty much over at this point because that was Serghei's best shot. They were still dry. He was against the fence, and Ciryl Gane who would have thought being a freak athlete would be the best base for MMA in the heavyweight division? Yeah, it was a wrap. It was a perfect game, great crowd, great reception. Great performance. This is exactly what Ciryl Gane needed. I said it was similar to when Derek Lewis's last performance. He just needed a perfect performance that got people talking. That's exactly what Ciryl Gane did in Paris today.
Jed, listening to No Bets Barred when you and GC were talking about this fight, you guys said probably within the first 3 minutes we would know exactly how this fight was going to play out, and I think that's kind of what happened here. But at the same token, because of how this all played out, Jed, what did you take away the most from this? Did you learn anything truly new about Ciryl Gane in this one? Because it was it wasn't a great shot from Serghei Spivak. He didn't come out with, I'm just going to tackle you right away. I'm going to try to stand with you, maybe try to throw you off your game a little bit. And Cyryl's like, okay, I'll do this. So, what did you take away the most from this performance?
I learned that my priors were correct about Serghei Spivak. I learned nothing about Ciryl Gane. This was the outcome that I felt was by far the most likely, but I had like some trepidation just because statistically Ciryl Gane is really bad at defending takedowns. He has that number will improve from this outing depending on how many Spivak gets credited with, but it was like 40% takedown defense coming into this fight. And like, look, stats have a lot of issues with them in general, particularly given his sample size. But still, basically, the only two dudes who ever tried to take him down did so well. And so I had some concern that like maybe this dude truly just does not understand wrestling. And Spivak is good enough and has been a very effective like clinch takedown artist that if something happens, I can't be shocked. But I thought that this was the most likely outcome because uh, there are two cheat codes in MMA. The biggest one is athleticism, and at heavyweight, it's the one that matters by far the most. And they were playing in different sports. Like show that to someone who knows nothing about fighting, they'll be like, yeah, those two dudes are not the same. Like I don't need to see that one of them's hitting the other one. The way that he is simply moving around as if Serghei Spivak is stuck buried in mud is clearly he is going to win a fight here. So yeah, I learned nothing about Gane. I suspect that we will learn more about him when he does fight Tom Aspinall, but I thought that there was a world where maybe we were all underestimating Serghei Spivak. He's been on a good little run here. Granted, he hasn't beaten anybody good, but like still 28. Maybe he's gonna be something. Nope. It's just who he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Top 12 heavyweight in the world, but that's my biggest takeaway.
So, Jose, Jed mentioned it. Tom Aspinall did what he said he was going to do after his recent win over Marcin Tybura. I'm going to fly to Paris. I'm going to sit in the crowd and watch Ciryl Gane, Serghei Spivak fight, and I'm going to fight the winner. Now, Aspinall has already kind of run over Serghei Spivak, so I don't know if the appetite would have really been there for that one, but I think this is the result that Tom was kind of hoping for, that he could fight a guy who has won an interim title and has fought for the heavyweight title on 2 different occasions, Jose. So Serghei Pavlovich is there. We got Jailton getting ready to fight Curtis Blades. Like this, John Jones getting ready to fight Stipe. There's a lot going on here at heavyweight. Are we doing, in your opinion, Ciryl Gane, Tommy Aspinall? Is that the fight to make, or do we got to wait a little bit and just see how this all plays out over the next few months?
I mean, that's probably going to happen, especially if they want to do another big fight night in Europe. I mean, Mr. London main event versus Mr. Paris main event would just make sense to do it in Europe, and all Europe big heavyweight tilt would be awesome to witness. So obviously the UFC will probably put it somewhere like Minneapolis for whatever reason. But I don't. If you're asking me what I would do, I'm also working under the assumption that the winner of, like, especially if John Jones wins, which I think he will, and John Jones either vacates the belt or retire, and Stipe retires, and there's a vacant belt, I would personally like to see Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall, and I would do Ciryl Gane versus the winner of Jailton Almeida versus Curtis Blades, just because Cyril's 0-2 in big, undisputed heavyweight title fights, and Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall have not had the opportunity to fight for that yet. Pavlovich is weighing in again as a backup, so I'm going to assume he's one half of the main event of any vacant heavyweight title fight, and I just would like a fresh face up there. So I would say Tom Aspinall, Pavlovich main event, Ciryl Gane versus the winner of Jailton Almeida, Curtis Blades. So that's just what I would do anyway. But I'm not going to try to pretend I know anything about the UFC matchmaking, because we ask for all kinds of things and they never work out.
Jed, what do you think happens here? Because despite, look, people feel about Michael Bisping as a commentator and as a post-fight interviewer however they want, but yeah, he was not great tonight, but
he has not been great in like 2 years.
But in this case, he's in the cage talking to Ciryl Gane, who's coming off this big win, and he does exactly what he should do. Hey, see that guy right there? That's Tom Aspinall. He called you out. He came here to watch you fight. Any interest in fighting him? Ciryl Gane completely no-sells him, and it's just basically the answer is, listen, I just want to get back to the belt, and whatever I need to do to get to the belt, that's what I'm going to do. So I immediately heard that and was like, that's kind of interesting. I'm surprised he just completely no-sold this idea. What did you think of that? just no selling Tom Aspinall altogether. Was that smart in your opinion?
No, I would also, one of my issues with Bisping, I think he is better at post fights is than doing his live commentary. One of my issues is he is doing exactly that. He's feeding narratives, and I know that like the UFC probably wants that, but that's not really what should be happening. Like, let the fighters create the narratives that they want to create. You don't have to insist on them, because I mean, sure, we think it makes sense, and Tom Aspinall wants this, and I guess the UFC wants it, but like Ciryl Gane doesn't seem to give a shit about it, so we don't really need to be like, hey, this is undeniable. We have to. There are plenty of other dudes Tom Aspinall could fight, so he just doesn't seem to care about it. I suspect he doesn't care because he's gonna get tuned up if he does take that fight. But I'm not entirely surprised because his whole demeanor heading into fight week was, dude, I don't need to have a face off with Tom Aspinall in the cage after UFC Paris. Like he's concerned about doing him and not giving any ancillary shine anywhere else. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad for him promotionally. I'm honestly not sure. But I am not shocked that he didn't take the low hanging fruit because it he could easily be like, actually, I'd really love to face Jailton Almeida next. Like, you guys say I can't defensively grapple. If he beats Curtis Blades, let me fight that dude and I'll show you that. So not shocked. And I don't care enough.
Fair enough. To Bisping's defense, he's got the earpiece. They're telling him essentially like what to say and what to ask. So
Yeah,
it's kind of the thing.
I get that they're doing it, but that part just rubs me the wrong way. Like, that's the fighter's time to do something, not your time to be like, hey, here's what you're supposed to say. Say it. Like, if you guys want them to do that, talk to them backstage and put them through media classes and be like, hey, here's where we want you to go with your career. If you win, here's what you should do. Not, we're going to ham-fistedly have Michael Bisping try to real time put words in your mouth because it doesn't come off smoothly.
Well, one thing UFC told Ciryl Gane after the victory was you got yourself $50,000 because he got himself a bonus. Morgan Charrière got a bonus. One day I'm going to pronounce that correctly. Fight of the night, no surprise, Benoit Saint-Denis versus Thiago Moises. Those are your bonuses for UFC Paris. We will talk about Benoit Saint-Denis and what he accomplished tonight in a moment, but let's talk about the co-main event. Jed, we'll begin with you. Manon Fiorot versus Rose Namajunas. I believe you had a bet on Rose Namajunas. I picked Rose to win. Casey picked Rose to win. It just was a value pick more than anything. And I think kind of you and I were in the same line of thinking here that if Rose is going to move up to 125, she's going to take the time to do it and accept this fight. She is going to be ready to go. She's going to be focused, chip on her shoulder and everything. And even if she had that tonight, Jed, it just didn't seem like it was enough. Manon kind of pushed her around a little bit. She was just bigger. She was stronger. And Rose didn't really, she had some moments in the fight. I thought if you're going to give her a round, it's the third. And the two judges who scored it for Rose, who scored it 29-20 Fiorot, gave Rose the third round. But what was your biggest takeaway from Fiorot's win over Rose Namajunas? Was it more on the Manon side or on the Rose side?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is that Brock Bowers just scored the first touchdown of UGA football season. So let's go, baby. Go Dogs. Second, my biggest takeaway on this fight that we're supposed to be talking about, not the UGA football game that's going on right now, is remember earlier when I said there are like two cheat codes in MMA and one of them's athleticism, and it's the biggest one, particularly at heavyweight. I think I haven't crunched the numbers, but I'm starting to believe that the biggest cheat code, particularly in the lightest weight classes, is less athleticism, though that is very important, and just being a hoss. If you are just a sturdy, immovable human being at lighter weight classes, that is very, very strong weapon to employ. And that's what we saw. Like, this doesn't need to be the everybody dunk on Jamal Hill for his bad takes contest, because Jamal Hill had a really bad take being like roast piece Fiorot up, and he got dunked on by basically everybody on Twitter as a result of it. He's like almost right. He's not right. She did not like tune up Fiorot in any way, and she didn't win the fight. But you could see that she's better at fighting. Like, she is better at the composite pieces of fighting. She cut more angles. She had much more diversity to her attacks. She was slipping. Her defense had much more layers and depth as opposed to engage or disengage. Like, she is better at the pieces of it, but there was too big a gap between them physically for her to generate the kind of offense that was meaningful. Like, she would land shots and Fiorot would eat them fine. And there was really no issue there. Fiorot never hurt her either, but the damage accumulation, like at the end of the first round, they landed pretty even amount of shots, and Rose's face is jacked up because she's getting hit by somebody who has 10 pounds of muscle on her and is a hoss. And so it just is sort of how that fight, immediately in that fight, I thought, man, Rose might be able to win. Like, she has an edge in skill here, and maybe she can parlay that into a victory. And in the third round, she came out well. I still scored that round for Fiorot, but I was doing live vlogging, so like I'm not married to that decision. But she couldn't hurt Fiorot, and when she got hit, it showed. It moved her body physically more. She has no future at this weight class unless she really puts on like a lot of actual muscle to compete here at the upper end of it. And so that, and also I did not realize that Trevor Whitman wasn't going to be coaching her. Had I known this, and had I known that this was a Pat Barry show, I probably wouldn't have felt as confident in my Rose Namajunas pick coming into this fight. Hand up, I missed that one.
I think most people missed that one because that's probably been the biggest question I've been getting is where the hell was Trevor Whitman on this fight? And who knows at this point? Trevor's not a guy that does a lot of media. Maybe he'll comment about it on social media, but glaring hole in the corner. I know for Rose's fight with Carla, Trevor was there, but he wasn't saying anything. He was just kind of there while Pat Barry was shouting out the instructions, and we know how that fight went. And tonight, no Trevor Whitman whatsoever. What did you think of the fight, Jose? I know like you didn't get to watch it all, but what did you think of Mannon's performance? And because I feel like this is going to be more about Rose losing than Mannon winning. I think Rose losing is going to get more of the headlines. So what did this performance do for Mannon? Because she called for the title shot. Erin Blanchfield beat Taila Santos last week. Seems to be a 2-horse race between these two ladies. At this point, we get the rematch for the title between Grasso and Shevchenko coming up in 2 weeks. Who's ahead now after this win?
Well, in terms of how the fight played out, none of you guys were on the preview show with AK and Casey and I, and this went exactly as I said. Rose is, without question, the better martial artist all around. Like, cuts better angles, has better striking, has better grappling, everything. She's just fighting a bigger woman, and that was going to be the deciding factor. There's a reason when fighters move up in weight, they tend to start lower on the totem pole and work their way up. Every now and then you get someone like Jessica Andrade who just eats Count Chikagian's liver in their first fight and gets thrust into a title fight. But like you saw with Dustin Poirier and a lot of other guys that move up in weight, they start outside the top 15 or on the out, like right at the 15 rank, and then work their way up. So by the time they get to the top 5 of the division, their body is used to it. Rose just looks like a straw weight that just stopped cutting weight. She didn't look like a flyweight like Mannon. Mannon was very clearly bigger. In terms of who's ahead between her and Erin Blanchfield, I would say it depends on who wins between Valentina and Alexa Grasso, and it depends on where the UFC is going to go with these fights geographically. If Valentina wins, obviously a Mannon Valentina fight somewhere in Europe would probably be really popular idea because they both have ties to those regions. And then if Alexa wins, if they want to do another May card, the Cinco de Mayo card in Newark or the New York area, that's where Erin Blanchfield is from. I would imagine that's what they would do. So I just think if who's ahead, I think Erin Blanchfield is ahead. I think she has more. I think Erin Blanchfield is ahead, but I have no confidence in saying that. Neither woman blew the doors off or had like this super impressive performance. Erin Blanchfield beat Taila Santos, someone that almost beat Valentina, and Manon Fiorot beat a strawweight that was unranked at flyweight. Neither was an overly impressive performance, so I just think Erin's ahead, maybe a step ahead, and it's just going to depend on who wins and where they go geographically, because that seems to be how the UFC makes decisions these days.
Jed, where does Rose Namajunas go from here? It's tough to go back to 115 with the way things are playing out right now. 125 is crazy town. What happens?
I don't know. On what Jose said, I agree in large part. I will say, I think if Valentina wins, they're at this point they will just run the trilogy now. I was skeptical of that, but I think if she wins now, they're just gonna do that as a 3 match, and we'll get Aaron versus Fiorot for a number one contenders fight, sometime in the similar time frame there. So that's my guess. As far as Rose, that's why I didn't like this fight. I thought this fight was fine, but the downside of it's really bad for Rose because what is her career at this point? Probably does just go back to 115. It didn't look to me like she really put on weight to move up. Like Jose said, looked like she was a strawweight who didn't cut. So she can go back. And if it's, hey, I just wanted to try and see, and now I'm going to go back. Okay. But that moving weight classes is a desperate move. And I said this before. It's a thing you do when you're out of options and you don't know how else to get back to the title, etc. That's not where Rose was. Rose lost the fight in the belt in an awful fight, but she had 2 wins over the current champion and just needed a win at strawweight and would be right back in contention. So I don't know what this was about, because it wasn't about winning, because she was never going to beat the top of if she can't beat Manon Fiorot, she can't beat the other people in this weight class. So I don't know. I guess she goes back to 115, or she should do the thing she should have done at first and just go back to the farm. You are happy on the farm. Continue to do that. America needs plenty of farmers out there, and that's a good life too. And you don't have to do this.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see what she does. Because if she stays at 125, who's she going to fight? Natty Ice? Is that kind of her future, is fighting somebody like that at this point?
No.
I mean,
maybe you just give her.
I'd watch the hell out of that fight.
I think you give her her and Chukagian, you do the older hands at the weight class and see if she can succeed against somebody like that.
Or
Barber?
No.
Barbara just had surgery. She's out.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I don't care what happens in November. Can we just do the trilogy? Can we just do the Rose Jessica Andrade trilogy? We could do it at 125. We could do it at 115. For the love of God. Can we just do that?
Isn't Jessica Andrade matched up already?
Right, but yeah, she's fighting Mackenzie Dern, but
let's have her fight the loser of that. Watch either one of those.
Have her fight her management. Jessica Andrade needs to fist fight her management for continuing to roll her into fight. She's trying to get 6 fights in this year, and she keeps getting her ass beat. What are we doing? So dumb.
Oh,
it's so dumb.
It's going to be real interesting at 125. It's going to be real interesting to see where Rose Namajunas is going to go. And boy, is it going to be real interesting to see where Benoit Saint-Denis goes. Man, what a first round between him and Thiago Moises. He just laid the wood on Thiago Moises until the last 50 seconds of the first round, and Moises started landing some big shots and things are getting real fun. And then round 2 happens and BSD just mowing down Thiago Moises. Just looks so much more physical, just looks so much bigger in there. Thiago looked like a bantamweight compared to Benoit Saint-Denis. It was crazy. But now, since moving back to his natural weight class at 155, Benoit Saint-Denis is 4-0, 4 finishes, and now he takes on a perennial top 20 guy and just mows him down. Impressive performance. I think he opened up a lot of eyes, Jose. What did you make of Benoit Saint-Denis today? That was some performance, was it not?
That dude just secretes violence. It just felt like anything he wanted to do and props to Thiago Moises. He was in there fighting back as long as he could until his body just gave out on him. I thought he was cooked at the end of that round, and then he had that flurry that I don't want to say it rocked Benoit Saint-Denis, but he was very clear, oh, he's still throwing, so maybe I shouldn't just rush in. Smart move too. That dude he is now appointment. His next fight will be appointment viewing. Everyone in the MMA landscape that knew about him, this was one of those fights they circled. Now it doesn't matter where or who he fights next. People are going to tune in to watch that dude get covered in blood, either his own or someone else's blood. Yeah, he secretes violence, and he is going to be a lot of fun to watch moving forward, especially if he stays a lightweight.
How excited are you? Because Jed, you and I are on the same page. Lightweight is the best division in the sport. Bantamweight is very good.
So am I. I've been hammering that.
You've been that too. You've been that way as well. You've been that way as well. We've argued with people in Boston about this as well. But Jed, I mean, lightweight. Now we have this guy. We have this guy now added to the mix, and he might be one of the 15 best lightweights in the world. He may not have that number next to his name after this performance, although he's probably going to end up in my rankings on the MMA Fighting Global rankings after what he did today. How excited are you to see this guy start taking on dudes with numbers next to their names? Because there's some fun fights for that guy.
Dude, he's super fun. I'm pulling up my rankings now to see. Yeah, he's probably going to make it into mine. He's probably going to slide into the 15 spot after this. Again, being a hoss, Mike. He was just a gigantic human being in there against Thiago Moises, who's been a top 25, top 30 lightweight for a long time, just hanging around, being real good. And BSD was just like, sup, bro. Wicked kicks, just a violent dude. He's awesome. I don't know if this makes sense, like, promotionally or where they're going. That's for you to decide, Mike. You have a great program on this very website, this very podcast network. But what I think we should do is we should call up Matt Frivola and we should just let the chaos ensue. Just let these two dudes hit each other and see what happens, because it will be violent and awesome. So
Madison Square Garden,
this guy rules.
UFC 295. That's exactly the fight to make. Spoiler alert. That is exactly.
And this guy rules. Like,
yeah,
this guy's really fun, and like that's the thing. There's some other fighters you could talk about on the fight card, and like, I know that this is pedantic and kind of disrespectful in some ways, and it's just who I am. Like, you choose who you want to be as a fighter, and you can choose to be Taylor Lapilus, or you can choose to be Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, this is a choice you can make. William Gomis was like the bad one. This like,
yeah,
don't
Lapilus
be William
fight
Gomis.
was pretty good.
Lapilus, sorry, I was the too many Frenchmen, and it was hard. Don't be William Gomis. Be Benoit Saint-Denis. Like, just be a dude who's gonna come and get rugged with it, and like, it's just way cooler, because you're probably not going to make it to the belt, because no one reasonably is ever going to make it to a title. It's impossible to win a belt, but at least be fun as hell while you're in there to get down. And that's BSD is every time. He's always a good time. And yeah, like Jose said, dude's going to become real popular if he keeps this up.
Yeah. What a performance. Him and Frivola is going to be fun. Beard, like, two good beards just going after it. Two crazy fun fighters getting after it. Do it at MSG. Frivola would love that. He's been calling for MSG and wanting to fight somebody on that card for so long. I love that match. If he's willing to turn around that quick, let's freaking do it. Volkan Ozdemir getting a submission. People just ripping up their betting tickets all over the place. Volkan gets his first submission.
What a dirtbag. What an absolute dirtbag move. The second sub ever.
Was this the fight that GC was like, I might take a little shot at that sub prop, and you're like, well, don't do it because it's gonna lose?
I don't think this was it. No, okay. It couldn't be it, because he hadn't. His first submission was like his second fight or whatever. It's the only submission he had in his career, because I was on the TKO prop. So I was like, Bogdan isn't very good. I watched him fight. He's not good. I don't know what Bisping was talking about. Like, this guy has the look of a guy who could come in here and do, like, no, he actually looks awful. And Volkan's going to win. And then he taps him, and it ruined my betting ticket. Mike was very upset.
Morgan Charrier kicked off the main card. Nasty body kicks. Gets the TKO win at 3 minutes, 51 seconds. Sent the crowd into a frenzy. None of us. Go ahead, Jose.
Casey was there. Bring in Casey. Casey, I don't know where you are.
Casey was at Paris?
No. You were there?
You were there on the preview. No, he was there for the preview show.
All right.
How you were there. And I paused the preview show to basically just talk about that fight. And I was like, I am more excited for this fight than any other fight outside the top 2 fights. Casey was like, you sold me on it. Casey did it deliver.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yes.
Dude, Sherry is
Yes.
Morgan
funny.
Sherry
No,
was like,
yeah.
that
Good
was
job,
the
good
fight
job.
I like circled, and I was like, if you're watching one fight outside of the top 2, watch Morgan Charrier fight. That dude is super fun, is super popular. He has a massive audience, and I think the UFC is going to I'm not calling him like a Sean O'Malley superstar, but if they go anywhere in Europe, stick him on that card, and he's going to have fans flock to him. That was such an awesome performance. Like when he kicked Manolo, like his body left the ground. Like he was like punching a football. That was an unbelievable performance. And man, I was nervous because I when I tell people to watch one fight, it oftentimes doesn't work out. Sometimes it works out. Because like I said, there are 3 fights that I have ever prayed to like the fight gods for in my entire life. There are 3. They were MVP and Paul Daly, didn't work out. They were Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie, didn't work out. And it was Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler too. Very sad. So when I was like, Morgan Charrier is the guy to watch, I was a little nervous, and he delivered with flying colors.
Yeah, nasty performance. It was a really good matchup for him too, which is
The
nice.
second body kick is chef's kiss. Like the first one that
oh.
crumples him up and he's falling and gets up and then just like goes right back to it like a punt.
Oh.
That's the good stuff, baby. That's what
His
you
feet,
want.
both feet were off. Both of Manolo's feet was off the ground. Like he was in the air, like getting punted. It was unbelievable.
That's the good stuff, man.
And you know what's wild? The most boring fight on the main card ended up delivering the more memorable kick from William Gomi to Giannis Gamori. Jose, what did you think of this? Because if you guys didn't see it, William Gomi has added to this list that we've had over the last few weeks of shots to the ding ding that are like on the borderline of like, is it or is it not? And the referee's just like, okay, do you want to go? Do you want to go? And like, no one said anything. And he's just like, all right, I'm stopping the fight. And it was ruled a TKO. Like what? This is so, I had no idea what was happening until people like who were rewinding it and watching it really closely were telling me. So this was just so bizarre, wasn't it?
It was very bizarre. And I'm very happy. Like, I'm not happy it happened, but I'm thankful that it happened of all the main card fights, this one probably had the lowest stakes in terms of like hype and title contention and name value. So if there was going to be one mess, I'm glad it was on this card. But yeah, it was bizarre because even Giannis was like, he seemed very confused about what was happening. And then I can't imagine what was happening to the fans in attendance because like us is when we were watching through the television, the commentators did their best to try and figure out what was going on. If I'm in attendance and William Gomi does that and they call the fight and everyone seems confused, I'm pissed. Luckily, everyone was still high on that Morgan Charrier fight, and this was probably felt like a bathroom break fight. Good placement, honestly, before the chaos of the top 4 fights started. Yeah, confusing all around. Don't know because I can't say I agree or disagree because it just felt like such a bizarre turn of events. It was bizarre is the word I would say.
Yeah, if I'm Gamori's team, I am appealing this. It may not go anywhere, but you absolutely have to appeal it. What did you think of this, Jed? Right call? I mean, was it low? Was it not? Like, and then just how the referee handled it. How do you grade it?
It's weird. Like, I knew it was happening the whole time, and I get it. If this feels like a situation that just is going to occur at some points, and we can't just like be too upset because the ultimate end result is there's going to be an appeal process. They'll get overturned to a no contest, and sometimes you're going to have things like this. In a perfect world, like at a very baseline, the referee in real time, who is the arbiter of things that are illegal or fair, believed that kick was a fair kick, and so. Not once, but twice implored both fighters to continue. And the one dude turned around and walked away. And so that by definition is, hey, he's not willing to fight. I have told them, though, the fight is legal, continue. He turned around and walked. That's him quitting. The fight is stopped. pretty reasonable and it is very obvious that neither dude really registered what he was saying. And so the best answer would have been like, hey, stop. I said the fight is on. Can fight each other. And then if they continue to not, then you can call it. But, that's not what happened. And we end up with this result. I think the attitude is correct even if the outcome was poor. Like the idea of that a lot of fans and seems to sort of be a thing here is, oh, well, it was pretty clearly a low kick, and so you should stop the fight. He didn't think it was. And if he's the referee and did not believe that kick was illegal, that's correct. Like the way he handled it should be how it goes. It shouldn't be, well, I'm going to stop and defer. And we've seen Herb Dean and a lot of people, oh, he's acting like he got poked in the eye, blah, blah, blah. There is no way to make up for this that way. Like if the dude's just gaming the system. So I think his heart was probably in the right place. The execution was really poor. But ultimately this will get overturned to a no contest. And it's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. And sometimes weird things are going to happen when people are fist fighting. That's just the name of the game.
Taylor Lapilus gets the win over Kyle Loughran. Shout out to Kyle Loughran for, putting the spotlight on these prelims. That dude should get a bonus just for making it interesting. And the walkout to no music was incredible, even if it was a mistake, because there happened to be music at the end of the walkout. So I don't know if he planned it that way, but geez, Louise, was that fun.
More people need to do that. If you're trying to be the villain, do that. That was very, very well done. It's a shame that you lost because that was great.
Yeah. He walked out and just stared each fan in the eyes, had his back to the octagon. It was great. Ange Lusa, Reese McKee, crazy fight. Ange Lusa gets the win. This was kind of on the surge of really bizarre scorecards because apparently a judge thought Reese McKee didn't win that third round, which is weird, super weird. Reese McKee remains winless inside the octagon.
That's crazy.
But that was
that feels like they just wrote the scorecard and just mailed it in before the round was over. We know
Steve Rita.
We're good.
This is Steve Rita from Massachusetts, just putting out scorecards, even though there's a finish in the round. Come on now. The other fight, Nora Cornell versus Jocelyn Edwards. When I heard Jose 30-27, 30-27, 29-20, I'm like, all right, Jocelyn Edwards clearly won this fight. And here's what I put on Twitter. 29-28, but 30-27 wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that Nora winning is egregious. I'm not saying that because it was a close fight. But to say that Jocelyn Edwards did not win a single round in that fight, insane. That is egregious. 30-27 is awful, Jose, isn't it? Yeah, that's a terrible card.
That's real bad. That's about as bad as you can get. Again, thank God it wasn't in a super high stakes fight near the top of the card. Am I crazy in the sense that I scored at 30-27 for Jocelyn? I thought she won all. I think there is a very real world that she won all 3 rounds. So the fact that 2 of the judges thought she lost all 3 rounds was I'm with you. When they announced 30-27, 30-27, I was like, oh, Jocelyn won. And then when they announced Nora's name, I was like, I don't know about that fight. Don't really care to watch that fight over again and see if I was wrong. But in the moment, I was pretty confident Jocelyn had won.
What do you think, Jed? Weird one.
Yeah, 30-27 is bad. It's just, if you wanted to do 30-27 Edwards, that is much better than 30-27. I had it 29-28. I didn't think I gave the second round to Cornell, but I think that there's a much better argument that Edwards won the second round than there is that Cornell won the third round, if nothing else. So,
for sure.
Super weird, really, really bad scorecard. Odd that all of them were in agreement. Just some home cooking. That's why you hold events in a country. Get a little home cooking going your way. So, like Jose said, not to be super boring. I'm not going to watch this back to see if I care to change my mind. And thank goodness it happened in a fight that no one's really all that upset about. And as Jose didn't say, the most important thing here is the universe evens itself out because Jocelyn Edwards took a stone cold robbery
That's
off
true.
Lucy Pudilova, and so now
That's
she
true.
loses a probable robbery here, and that's the way the world balances itself out over time.
So when am I gonna get my 4 BTL wins back from Jed?
I'm not.
Or
I'm not
better
in charge
yet,
of that.
when do I get my win back from BC? He literally didn't give an answer, and they still voted for him.
It's really true.
That's like
the most egregious robbery. in the history.
That's like a fighter saying, "I'm just not going to fight the last round," and then getting a 30-27.
There is just chaos outside of my house right now. We're getting like all the roofs are getting replaced, and then they chose like right now, 7 o'clock on a Saturday. Let's just turn the radio up full blast. Let's clean up the driveway. Let's blast the leaf blower. Even though I'm just
glad that someone is actually working on your house, because my parents have been trying to redo their roof, and as you guys know how contractors are, they'll go about 3 weeks without showing up. So props to you for finding anyone that will show up.
So I live in a detached townhouse, and we're forced to get it done, even though our roof is in decent shape. They're just coming to do the roofs, and you can't park in your driveway. You can't even park near the house for the next 2 weeks. And we're just like, okay. Oh yeah, and by the way, you got to pay all this money for it on top of it. So you're welcome.
Did this work pre or post hurricane?
Oh, it started before the hurricane, and then they took 2 days off because of the hurricane that didn't hit us.
Never does.
And here we are on a Saturday.
Never comes through.
I mean, this better be the cleanest driveway I've ever seen with all this noise going on. We did find like a dozen nails in the driveway the other day, which is super fun. So maybe this is a good sound for all of us. Jacqueline Cavalcante gets a win, and Fareed Basharat, speaking of fun fighters with bright futures, just... Clayton Rodriguez had nothing for this man. The Basharat bros, they are a problem at 135. Casey, come on in.
That is a very, very brutal t-shirt. Or a sleeveless shirt, I should say.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Wow. Holy.
Too soon?
A little bit.
I mean, I love it, but it's a statement.
Cliff was sleeping in Kirk's bed that day too. So if anything, it would have been Kirk if Cliff wasn't asleep.
All right.
What wow.
To people just listening, Casey's wearing a shirt that said it should have been Lars, which is insane.
I mean,
it's a statement.
If you had an option, I mean,
I don't want any of them to die.
No one wants any to die. No one says that. But if you had to choose, just
no comment.
Maybe we can choose some questions and change the subject.
I didn't buy it.
Right. Well, fair.
Okay, you're wearing it.
Jed, I'll start with you. Did Gane's wrestling defense level up, or is Serghei that bad?
I mean, maybe it leveled up. We just don't have any idea.
Yeah.
Serghei didn't do anything to give us any sense of what happened. He didn't ever get close to anything. Like if Gane had really hey, look at him. He sprawled and turned the corner and got no. He had one sprawl the whole time, and it was from a shot that was not a deep power double. It was basically Serghei just bent over at the waist and ran at him. No, we have no idea. Maybe it leveled up. We just have no clue.
I think it leveled up. I'm gonna go ahead and level it up.
Could be.
I think it leveled up from 0 to 1.
No.
I know. I just me being,
I know,
that's just me being a curmudgeon. Yeah, Ciryl. I mean, like I said, I can't imagine Ciryl did that much wrestling before the Francis fight. And if you look at everyone else he beat, they're not big wrestlers. So I just think he had a game plan for Serghei, and it was a bunch of defensive wrestling, and they were still dry. And so the fact that he literally jumped out of a takedown was very impressive. I would have been curious to see if the fight lasted longer if Serghei ever got a hold of him, but he didn't. Serghei
and I also think that Cyryl's defensive grappling and his defensive wrestling, the lack of it was kind of overblown because of the John fight, and people just don't understand.
I agree.
It's like people they just forget how good John is. that he's arguably the greatest fighter to ever fight. And John is a very good grappler and a very athletic dude, and he can do that to pretty much anybody he wants to. So to compare Serghei Spivak to John Jones is like it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous comparison.
Yeah.
So
you only have to, with Gane facing Spivak, you have to worry about certain things. When you face John Jones, you have to worry about everything, including it's freaking John Jones and it's a title fight and it's a giant deal. And Ciryl Gane, he shit the bed that night. He did not shit the bed tonight. I'm not saying John Jones wins every time against Gane that easily, but everything went perfect for John that night. Everything went horrible for Gane that night. And I just think Gane's trying to right the ship a little bit, and it's a great performance.
Yeah,
has Gane eliminated that kind of? Did he have a boring fighter label on him, or is that Gane? Is that Gane from Gane?
Couple fights.
Boring.
He had he was like, I think there were 2 fights in a row in the it was like a combination thing. It was 2 main events in the Apex that went 25 minutes against Jairzinho and Volkov, and he just outstruck them. Like they were 50-45s. Mm-hmm. So they were dominant, and he wasn't like crushing them. It was just outstriking. So
yeah. It's funny. The Jairzinho fight, like 18 minutes of that fight was like against the fence.
Yeah.
With Ciryl just pushing him against the fence and like landing knees to the legs, and just it was just an inside clinch battle with like it wasn't all that thrilling to watch. And Dana's the one that kind of and Dana like hammered home the kind of boring label to those fights because he wasn't very kind.
I felt Bisping was trying to give Gane that boring label in the first round. If you listen to the commentary, by the time the fight ended, Bisping was all like, "What a great performance!" But in the first round, he was like, "I don't know if Gane's looking urgent in there." I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?" It's like he's beating the guy up.
Yeah. He also basically like the way he views Reese McKee as a competitor. He basically crowned Angelosa like the next welterweight champion because he beat Reese McKee tonight. Like it was wild. It was insane.
Right.
I mean, also he survived the last round against Reese McKee as well. Make sure you point that part out.
And Reese McKee survived the second round. Just a splattering from Angelosa. That was a crazy fight.
Jose, to your point you made sometime earlier this week, I don't remember what time we were talking about it. When you just get the name, the Irish Zombie or whatever the hell, that's how you know Korean Zombie's dope.
Yeah. When people are giving you a zombie and your race. Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
All right.
What else
talk about co-main event?
Question for the crew. Jose, will begin with you. Would Rose benefit from trying one camp elsewhere to freshen things up? It really seems she needs a new look and approach to get her to fire again. What does she have to lose, Jose?
I think she would need another a different head coach, maybe, or just try one, because like if she's not with Trevor Whitman anymore, maybe she just everyone has their specific coaches for specific things, but then you have the guy, like the head coach, that kind of puts everything together. And that's like Greg Jackson did that at Winklejohn, like Jackson Wink, where like you had Winklejohn do a lot of the striking, and you had other guys doing jiu-jitsu, and you had guys like Izzy Martinez was down there doing a lot of wrestling stuff, and then Greg Jackson was just like the mastermind. Maybe she just needs something like that. Trevor Whitman seems to be very good at that, but like you brought up when she fought in Phoenix against Carla, it just seems like Pat Barry was the one steering the ship, and maybe that's not what she needs. Maybe she needs an unbiased person that can put it all together. Pat Barry's a very good striker. I wouldn't rely on Pat Barry at all to tell me what to do in the wrestling or grappling department. So if she thinks she needs Pat Barry to be her striking coach, then that's great. Like Pat Barry's a very good kickboxer, but I think she just needs a mastermind that is the one driving the ship when she sits down on that stool and there's someone that kneels in front of her telling what to do. Maybe she just needs a different voice that can, like Tony Ferguson when he fought Justin Gaethje. He didn't really seem to have a head coach. He had a bunch of specialists, And then when they threw Eddie Bravo as the guy to go in there in the final round, he's like, you should do an Imanari roll. I'm like, probably not against Justin Gaethje. That's a very bad idea. Maybe she just needs a mastermind that's like running the ship. I don't know. I don't like being the guy to tell fighters what to do with their career. It just from the outside looking in, don't get rid of Pat Bear if you're feeling comfortable as him as a coach, but just get a different voice as the one putting the game plan together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you agree with this, Jed. Like going around and training with different people and getting different looks, I'm sure it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah. Look, it's always very hard to say what any fighter needs because all fighters are different. I largely think that most fighters would benefit from changing up their coaching structure every couple of years, like just because you don't want to stagnate. And this game moves so quickly and things move so rapidly. Even if you're with somebody like ATT or whatever, you're going to fall into routines and you get a lot of the similar looks and the same stuff. And there are fighters like Max Holloway who can stick with one team the whole career and it can be incredibly successful for them. But I have always thought that you should make more use of that and just get different eyeballs because I think Trevor Whitman's a terrific coach. I know that he may not now. I don't know to what extent he's now involved with her, but I think Trevor Whitman's as good a coach as there is in this sport. I think even if Rose was still working with Trevor Whitman every day, given how her last two performances have gone, a change of pace. Go see what Rafael Cordero can teach you because Trevor Whitman's teaching you a different way to fight. And maybe Cordero molds you a little more in his own image. Maybe you become much more of a pressure fighter. Rose has always been really good at kicking. Like maybe Cordero can get her to be a little bit more proactive with that. Like ATT, I always think everyone should go to ATT. It's the best gym in the world with the best coaching staff and the best everything. But I mean, any of it, Henry Hooft and company at whatever they're calling themselves now, Killcliff. Like, I think every fighter should change it up every couple of years, particularly if they've fallen on a hard streak. Like, just, all right, it's nothing bad about my previous coach, but let's see if something new works for me because that's just how life works. You stick at a job for 10 years and you want to change. You want something different, something to reinvigorate you. Rose seems to have gone about that by saying, yeah, I want a new challenge. I want to go up to 125. That's way freaking harder. It would be like, what if I just challenge myself by working with new people and seeing how this goes? So I would say yes, but you really have no idea until she does it and then we'll see if it works or doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at Zhang Wei Li. Goes to Henry Cejudo's camp, much different fighter. It just continues to get better. She was at Syndicate. She had like John Wood in her corner for the Amanda Lemos fight and maybe the best performance of her career. So obviously, and she's going back and forth to all different places, to Thailand and such. She's just, it works for some people, doesn't work for everybody. So, but I mean, if she wants to do that and just wants to expand her horizons, no one's saying like leave Colorado forever. You know what I mean? But like, if you want to go get some looks here and there, go ahead. If there's something you want to work on, go find the best in the world and spend a couple weeks there and then go back home and do what you normally do.
We're talking a lot about Rose. What did we learn from Fiorot? What was your takeaway from Manon's performance tonight? Did you learn anything new? Because I thought that was kind of like, in a sense, it's a bit of a trap fight for Fiorot, even though it's a big name. If she wins, we're kind of like, well, Rose wasn't good. Rose wasn't good at 25, rather than saying, whoa, Manon looked amazing. So I thought Manon's takedown D was the big difference in the fight. The way she stuffed Rose 3 or 4 times, pretty hard sprawls, and just like made Rose kind of pay for those takedowns. I thought that really changed the dynamic of the fight. And with Rose not having any of her wrestling, maybe her hand was really limiting her grappling. I thought to me that kind of hurt the confidence of Rose a lot in the fight. So, what did y'all think of Manon tonight?
I gained a little bit of respect for her. The takedown defense was less salient to me just because Rose isn't like a great wrestler. She's a functional one. She took Weili down a bunch and like can do it, but the first one I saw was enough to be like, oh, that's never going to work for Rose. She simply does not have the physicality or to do this with the technique barriers that exist within her at this point. So I didn't take a lot from that, but
I guess I'm saying
Manon's been
when you took that away, when Rose knew that wasn't there, now I thought she's kind of cooked. I mean, I wonder how Rose.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I have no idea. The things
Yeah.
that I will say impressed me, or that I certainly gained a little bit of appreciation. Fiorot has, I mean, for most of her career, she's largely styled on people. Not like styled on them, but like Chukagian, she just simply knew Chukagian couldn't hurt her and just threw a lot more than Chukagian did. And like, that's just how that fight went. Rose, she couldn't really track Rose down that much. Rose was very out. Whenever Fiorot would throw anything, Rose just immediately disengaged. And so it didn't let Fiorot really keep like a super high work rate, but it was really steady. And I thought she was doing some pretty good things in there. It was like, particularly with her right hook, like whenever Rose would commit to stepping in, Manon was really getting her right hook in. She was countering leg kicks. She didn't check a lot of them, which is an interesting thing. But as Rose started to go to kicks more, you started to see Manon register that was coming, and here comes a left hand or a hook to keep pace. So she was doing some things tactically, showing a little bit more to her game than she has previously, or at least from what I've seen. So that was good, but it wasn't like, she's leveling up. It's like, yeah, she's getting better. She is steadily improving, and that's good. I still think she will really struggle with certainly the top two women in this weight class, and probably with Alexa Grasso as well, though that fight could be a lot more competitive.
What did you think, Jose? What did you take away most from Manon?
Oh, muted myself. Pretty much everything Jed said. Also, the ability to, she had that massive gash on the side of her face, and she kept fighting forward. Because I don't think any of you were on it, because I think Casey was. You might have been at a pro wrestling thing, and then Mike, you were on vacation, and Jed, you were on it when we talked about. Can't remember who it was. It was me, you, and Eric on a post show when I was producing, and I brought up the point that Rose throws a lot of cheeky headbutts, a lot.
Oh yeah,
and no one ever.
That's veteran shit right there.
Yeah, like
respect it. That's some Henry Cejudo game.
She throws a lot of them. So once there was a clash of heads, I was like, well, I saw that coming about a mile away, and the fact that thing was leaking bad. So like I said with Zombie, the ability to fight through. To maintain your composure in the middle of pain and blood is a big deal. So in terms of her skill set, didn't learn a whole lot just because Rose just seems like the smaller fighter, but the ability to fight through damage, like because Jed said, kind of styled on a lot of her opponents. That was the biggest thing I learned. You have this big leaking thing on your forehead and still be able to fight at an incredibly high level.
To me, Manon Fiorot is just like she's like Paul Molitor out there. Like old school baseball fans can understand this.
Paul Molitor,
I mean,
reference,
she's just so solid, man. Like she is just fine hitting singles and doubles, and she's very good at it. Mm-hmm. She will just hit singles and doubles all day long and just boost that batting average up. She might flirt with 400. If you need her hit a home run once in a while, she'll come through if you really need her to. But she's happy hitting singles and doubles. She listens, and when she's effective with what she's doing, she doesn't veer from it at all. Like when she knows she's on to something, she just sticks with it. And Jed talked about the Chukagian fight. She did it here. She felt Rose, didn't feel like Rose could hurt her. She wasn't afraid of dealing with her on the feet. She wasn't afraid of Rose taking her down. I was actually kind of surprised that Manon didn't shoot more takedowns. And then I think as the fight went on, Manon was like, I don't even need to try to take her down because I'm just winning all these striking exchanges. Like Rose was moving around well, but she just couldn't even get to Manon really in this fight. Like the third round, she had a little more success, and she had moments sprinkled throughout. But I felt very confident it was 2-0 heading into the third. And if you scored a 30-27 Manon at the end, like it wouldn't have shocked me. Yeah. It was a clear Manon win. And then Rose just had a little more success in the third. But yeah, singles and doubles, man, very effective in this fight.
Casey, to your point, I think the thing I'm going to take away from this fight, and that I would love to see if she registered. I was also surprised, Mike, that Manon didn't go for more takedowns, but I think that she just recognized that she didn't really need to, and grappling with Rose maybe brought in a different level of danger that was not like something she needed to. I would have loved to see her spend more time in the clinch because she beat the hell out of Rose when they were clinched up. Like every time they engaged in a clinch, Manon was beating her up. Like she landed a couple of really nice knees inside, and they didn't clinch for very long. But I thought she could have gone to that a lot more, and maybe that's an area that she can be like really good in because she is so physical, and she had a lot of success, tonight with that.
The knees to the body were nasty in the clinch.
Really,
Nasty.
really mean shit. Like real mean stuff from her in the clinch.
Yep.
Yeah. What I learned, I guess. I mean, I wasn't too high. I mean, I knew Mana was a top 10 fighter at 25, but I wasn't like I was still in the kind of the fence. But I was impressed tonight by her performance, and Rose just. I hope she goes back to 15. That's all. I don't care who she fights. If she wants to work her way up, be a fringe. I don't know if she's okay if not being the best or working. I don't know. I just hope she goes back 15. I just don't think 25. Just 25 doesn't look right for her. It just felt off. Wasn't. I don't know.
I'll tell you what my other takeaway was, Jed, and I'm curious to get your take on this. And was what if the UFC reversed things? What if they had done Manon versus Tyler Santos and they did Aaron Blanchfield versus Rose Namajunas? Like how much differently would we be looking at things right now? Like Jed, like if they did if Aaron Blanchfield fought Rose Namajunas tonight, how would that have gone?
Aaron Blanchfield would have killed her. I said that coming up like before this fight happened. I was like, yeah, if she fights Rose, she would just kill her. And again, I think Rose Namajunas might be the single most talented woman competing in mixed martial arts today. This is not me hating on Rose. This is me having a very clear understanding of the role physicality plays in combat, and exactly how that fight would go would be pretty bad because Rose is not like the best defensive wrestler, and Aaron Blanchfield would just crush her. Conversely, sign me up to just watch Tyler Santos and Manon Fiorot be hosses at each other and see what just two rock solid people who are just there. Like I don't know what that fight looks like. And it's probably not the most fun fight ever, but it's intriguing to me if nothing else. So that would have been a great switch up. Instead we got what we got, and now there's a bit of I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna guess that Aaron Blanchfield gets the next title fight over Manon off this, but maybe not. Maybe Manon now gets to fight for a title because she beat Rose, who's very small.
I hope the UFC does not book Blanchfield versus Manon.
I only think they book that if they do
a trilogy.
If Shevchenko wins.
Okay.
If Shevchenko wins.
If Shevchenko wins and they book a trilogy, I think we are for sure getting that fight, and I'm okay with that. Even though I still think it's a little dumb.
Okay, yeah, because I think Blanchfield's going to have that title eventually, and then if she beats Fiorot on the way to that title, then when she does have the title, like all the contenders, she's already kind of beat on the way up there. So just think about our future. So last comment, since I think we got an hour. Where is it?
The hair on this foursome could not be any different.
That's very true.
What hair, baby? What hair?
What?
Yeah, we should have reversed it. We should have put you in the second slot, Casey, Jose in the third, and then Jed in the fourth. Based
Pokemon
on
evolution.
Yeah, from length. But Jose's got the thickness factor, so we got to figure that part out. Maybe he goes fourth. But
it's my brown pride, baby. We got good hair.
Well done. All right, I think we're good. Early day MMA, 7:21 p.m. Eastern.
I feel like you undersold Paul Molitor. I think Paul Molitor was a much better baseball player than Manon Fiorot is an MMA fighter.
Ooh, wow.
It's just a comparison as a hitter.
10 guesses. I can't tell you who Paul Molitor. How to spell that man's name? Whether he was righty or lefty. I can't tell you.
Paul Molitor is one of, I want to say, 4 or 5 people in the history of baseball, which is more than a century old, to have, I think, 3,000 hits, a 300 career average, and 500 stolen bases. I think that's better than Manon Fiorot is at MMA.
Look,
he also has a World Series MVP.
Yeah, but
do I think Manon? Do I think Manon Fiorot is going to play like 27 seasons in the
How many
UFC?
dingers?
No.
How many dingers did
I
Paul
think
hit
300.
though?
I think 300.
Oh,
But
come
over
on,
like
chicks dig the long
37
ball.
seasons. Yeah.
10 a year.
I mean, he
come
hit
on.
like Molitor hit
Unless
like
you're
10
stole
Ichiro, you
it.
can't
He
get
had-
away with that.
He had 10. He stole home. He stole home like a dozen times in his career.
Look, Manon
that's-
had to
that's
fight
awesome.
Victoria. Look, Manon stole home when she fought Victoria Leonardo, so it's not like she's never had the chance. To
All
steal
I'm
home.
saying is Paul Molitor is very good at baseball, and Manon Fiorot is good at MMA.
Love y'all.
Neither let you down. Good night, everybody.